We are super fortunate to be here in Chongqing, and I'm having my first initial look at the Rerode R1. I've had one other opportunity before this to have tried this bike, but that was only some initial thoughts. I kind of just took it down the stairs, and yesterday I had a chance with it, and also today. So giving you guys not a comprehensive review, but just a quick look. Let's look at all the features of the Rerode R1. First off, starting up at the top here, you have your throttle with your 4-piston brakes. And then you also have a direct mount on a Fast Ace suspension. You have your throttle, as well as your USB-C and USB-A charge port right here. Okay, now coming to the display, we have Eco and Sport, so you can change this from Eco to Sport. Now you're also able to change the different modes. So we'll get my friend to go through it. So you can change the units from miles per hour to kilometers an hour. And then gear ratio, wheel size, E-speed, E-max, S-speed, max power. This is your regen, version number. Okay, and back to normal. So this is probably one of the first stock bikes, besides off memory, the Go Wow, where you're able to change some of the riding habits of the bike. Now, let's go through going down the bike. Let's look at the battery right here. So removing the key, pop this open. You have your 72-volt, 35 amp hour battery, your charge port, 3-pin right there. This plug is very similar to the Solari one. You also have your battery indicator and your 100 amp breaker. Let's do a quick battery wobble test. This thing is snug. It's not moving at all. Yeah, that's really good. Okay, now let's look at the seat. This seat is probably one of the best things about this bike. It's super comfortable, it's wider, it's super plush, and the angle is great. You never feel like you're slipping off this bike. Now, let's go down and talk about the motor. This motor, where do I? This motor will push out 8,000 watts peak with this 72-volt, 35 amp hour battery and your controller right here. Now, the really cool thing about the Rerode R1 is that you can actually mount the EBMX controller straight to this mount as well right here. We already have a guy who's already mounted an EBMX X9000 onto this. Okay. Now, this is a custom rear shock as well. The really cool thing about this shock is that the linkage goes down through the triangle down here. However, they've calculated the suspension ratio is really good. We haven't seen much of it bottoming out, and overall, there's not a lot of tolerances. So if I just give the bike a quick wiggle and shake, you don't hear any extra noise on it. And that goes to show the development team going into work. They told me that this bike has been in development for 3 years, and every time they've done a test ride, they've looked to see if there's any extra movements, any extra noises. And that's the really cool thing about the Rerode R1 is that the bike just feels very together, I have to say. Probably the most togetherness, most well-built e-moto on the market right now. Let's also let's flip the bike around. Okay. Let's also have a look at the brakes. So like we said, 4-piston, 203 millimeter rotors, as well as your rear fork. Now this rear fork is, it looks skinny, but it's actually wider. It has more depth to it when you compare it to something like the Sur-Ron. And then we also have the front headlight right here. There's no headlight switch, unfortunately, with the bike, but I think this is a custom light that they've also developed. Looks really good as well. Another thing I actually wanted to add about the seat is that it's 835 millimeters in seat height. So if you're familiar with the size of the Sur-Ron, this is also going to be really comfortable for you. One thing that just getting on this bike you'll feel is that this bike rides a little bit more like a trials bike. Even though with the 1919s on the front and the rear, the handlebar raised just gives you kind of like a little bit of that trial genetic inside of it. And that comes from the CEO and leaders of this company who have developed this bike to make it a ride in that fashion. But this is a quick look at the Rerode R1, and hopefully I'll get this bike to do a full review on, but we'll see in the future. Thanks for watching. Hit this to confirm. Okay. So this bike is supposed to do 85 kilometers an hour. Let's see if we actually get it up to do that. 55, 60, 64, 75. We're doing 80, 83, 84, 85. Nice. And this bike still feels very stable. This is honestly one of the best, like most well put together bikes on the market right now. No extra rattles, no extra sounds. Look at all the Go Well sponsors. We're actually at an event right now, and I'm taking one of the track bikes out for a quick test run.